The piece I'm addressing here is from a website called r4h.com, as in reasonforhope.com. It's an apologist website on which you can book one of the organization's 2 speakers. Of course, the homepage advertises that you can support them because their ministry appreciates your prayers, which request their Heavenly Father's aid, and they appreciate your financial support, which actually supports them. Now, I wonder which of those things they would prefer if you could only ask for one. Now, you can also waste $15 on a DVD series there called Debunked, which covers the topics shown here. I'm addressing the video that claims to debunk the absence of evidence for God. Because I don't want to be DMCA'd for including that video here, I've transcribed it and asked my lovely girlfriend to provide a voiceover for me to respond to. I could purchase the public license for that video for $14, but I'm not going to give a cent to this person. I think it's interesting for a website that calls itself a ministry to be only willing to allow its word to be spread if people purchase the right to share it. You'd think an actual ministry would want to spread the word to any and all, not just make some money off those who already believe it. The site claims these videos are entertaining, fast-paced, and humorous. Also, that they're packed full of sound logic and biblical truth. I'll let you decide.
Lots of people say there's no evidence for God.
Because there isn't. Especially not for any one particular God like that of the Bible.
Well, we're going to knock that out in 3. We're going to have to keep it simple. Throw in the old 1-2 combo, get in, get out real quick, and let you fine folks chat about it, okay?
I implore viewers to follow the link in the description to see the original for themselves. Most who pay attention will already see the strategy of this video, and probably the whole series. Speaking so rapidly that the listener's brain doesn't have time to detect the bullshit, brag about how right you are, throw in some scripture, and light your victory cigar before anyone gets a chance to realize how stupid the actual content is. Whenever you brag about how you're going to destroy a position or opponent, whether it's before or after you do anything, it reeks of insecurity. Anyway, let's see.
Punch 1. I'm going to call it the info uppercut. When's the last time you walked into a library and asked, hey, where are all the books that have been written by mindless products of natural laws? The librarian would probably laugh at you and tell you that no such books exist. They don't exist because they can't exist. Why not? Because first of all, it's just common sense.
It's just common sense is not a reason. Common sense is a figure of speech for what would appear to be obvious to most who think about something. It has no objective grounds in the field of logic which we were promised, so including it only pads your video with a pseudo-point in your favor, which you give to your audience quickly in the hope that they'll swallow it before they have time to think about it. Now, get on with your painfully flawed analogy. I have things to do today.
The words form the message in the books always originate from a person with a brain, or to say it a bit more scientifically, the message of the book, the purpose, comes to be understood by the orderly placement of the words designed in information. Information. Now, anytime we find info, these basic laws always apply.
I can't help but notice that you never cite a source for these laws. You later refer to them as laws of information science. I've never heard of those laws or even what information science is, so I looked it up. It turns out that information science isn't actually a branch of logic study or biology as this video makes it sound. The best definition I could find for actual information science is an interdisciplinary field primarily concerned with the analysis, collection, classification, manipulation, storage, retrieval, and dissemination of information. That definition comes from Merriam-Webster and American Heritage Dictionary. That thing I just did where I told you where the information comes from so you can check it for yourself, that's called citation. Try it sometime. The only sites I found concerning your version of information science were creation.com and bestbiblescience.org. Failing to cite your source and using information most popularly espoused by creationist websites kinda takes the muscle out of this info uppercut you promised earlier. Now, if I'm wrong on this issue, you can actually give me some credible source to cite the rest of this here. Feel free to correct me. I can't know since you don't cite your source, and an hour of research yielding nothing but content about actual information science didn't give me any insight. I did find a list of laws of information concerning real science, but they sure don't match your list of laws. Let's hear what yours are, by the way.
Number 1, matter doesn't spontaneously produce information. Number 2, only a mental source, intelligence, can generate new creative information. In other words, just like those books that couldn't originate without a mind, neither could life. Why not, you ask? Because we know that DNA contains information, therefore the laws of information science apply, which means that information in DNA cannot have spontaneously generated, and that a mind is behind the information. Period. No exceptions.
You're comparing inanimate printed words to genetic information that exists within DNA. You know these aren't the same things, right? Not all information takes the same form. Some information is binary, some is literary, some exists in radio waves or satellite projections. The pulses of energy in my brain, for example, inform my hand to slap my forehead when listening to your video. But that pulse is not the same as the information that DNA provides cells, nor is it the same form of information that is found in books.
Look at it this way. The simplest form of life we know is an amoeba, and it contains as much information in its own DNA as 1,000 complete sets of Encyclopedia Britannica. So are we to believe that there is no way a message in a library book can spontaneously generate, but far more complicated messages in DNA that contains 1,000 times more information could have?
Actually, you just said that an amoeba's DNA contains more information than 1,000 encyclopedia sets, and one entire set certainly contains more than one message, though you weren't specific about how you quantify a message, so your entire claim here is convoluted and riddled with inaccuracy. That, and your utter lack of citation, tend to give a rather pungent odor of bullshit.
Not likely. You see, when it comes to life or anything else that contains information, the laws of information science confirm that the necessity of a created mind. And guess what? In the very first book of the Bible, it happens to mention that. In the beginning, God created. Bam! Uppercut lands on the chin.
It perplexes me that you're so impressed with yourself for that deplorable excuse for an argument. I mentioned earlier that I did find one actual list of laws of information. They were given in reference to evolution, information theory, and thermodynamics by American educator Dick Hammond in 1985. None of them match your list, and I won't go through them all, but, well, you said Law 1 was matter doesn't spontaneously produce information. Hammond's actual first law is information, genetic or learned, exists in the arrangement of matter. Do you see why it's a bad idea to get your information from sources you're too embarrassed to cite? Also, acting as though the Bible claiming God created means you've dropped some profound knowledge bomb is just the swirl of whipped cream on top of the ignorance and arrogance milkshake you so eloquently blended up here. I wonder if any other creation myth claims to have had a fictional cause responsible for creating. Oh yeah, all of them, ever. Oh wait, I forgot to react to your brutal info uppercut.
And now here comes the indefensible head blow. We call this one the not a big bang bing swing, the KO to the claim there's no evidence for God, the law of causality's left hook of doom.
Enough with your dumbass, pretentious, embarrassing attempts at boxing analogies. Declaring yourself victorious on a subject matter of argument before, during, and or after presentation is clearly filler that only serves to expose how much of a douchebag you are rather than actually advance your argument.
It goes like this. Everything that had a beginning had a cause. The universe had a beginning, therefore the universe had a cause.
It's humorous that you call this series debunked, because the first cause argument for God has been debunked so many times in so many ways that it's depressing you to even bring it up. Your entire premise is that everything in existence, including the universe itself, must have a cause, and therefore something must have caused the Big Bang. Your first problem is the concept that you can use your God to fill in the first cause. Without any explanation, you've taken a fictional character, exempted him from the very law your point is contingent upon, and patted yourself on the back for having arrived at a triumphant conclusion that satisfies your desire for the evidence in that character. You failed to address the infinite regress that you've created, and in doing so, you failed to produce a meaningful argument. What if I said that Peter Pan caused the existence of the universe because everything needs a first cause except for Peter Pan, therefore he must have caused it? Well, are you ready to deconvert from Christianity and join the Lost Boys yet? Next, you completely strawman the Big Bang Theory.
Either something caused the universe to come into existence or nothing caused. I may not be the smartest girl behind the telescope, but honest, practical, everyday thinking is going to lead me to the former. You have to work pretty hard to conjure up a way that nothing did it. You see, it's pretty improbable, nay, impossible to account for design information and the causing the universe just to explode from nothing. Smack. While we're on the topic, where did the matter come from that exploded? Are we really to believe that there's nothing and then it exploded and now the exploded nothing is something and we just happen to be smart enough to discover and understand the very laws that prove the opposite? And if there is a general understanding of the laws and cause and effect is true, how can the matter come from a lesser cause like nothing?
I find it interesting that you're happy to make up laws like your false set of information science ones, but ignore things like what the Big Bang Theory actually states, the father of which was a Catholic, by the way, or the law of conservation of mass discovered in the 18th century. It states that matter cannot be created nor destroyed. The Big Bang Theory does not propose the origin of the beginning of all time and existence and matter. It explains the beginning of the universe as we know it. It's as far back as our knowledge can currently possibly reach. What happened before that, it's impossible for us to know right now. And rather than make up a fictitious answer, call it knowledge, and justify it with faith, reasonable people place it under the umbrella of I don't know, until circumstances arrive that may change that.
Now for some parting words from our sponsor, the Bible.
That's not your sponsor. People you were begging for donations from and those gullible enough to buy this shit from you are your sponsors.
It tells us that in Romans 1:20 that since the creation of the world, that God's invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his internal power and Godhead, so they are without excuse. But it also says that people actually know the truth, but they reject it, which explains why even though there is overwhelming evidence that there is a God, evidence won't convince the unwilling. Sad but true.
Claiming that something invisible is clearly seen is a contradiction. Atheists don't know that God is real but reject him any more than you would actually believe and reject Bigfoot if I wrote a book about him, then claimed all people really know that Sasquatch is real but reject him. A book claiming things about all people doesn't make that thing true. If you're going to claim there's overwhelming evidence for your God, that's fine, but I have a better course of action for you to take than misrepresenting actual science, seeking guidance from biased sources, strawmanning actual scientific theories, ignoring actual scientific laws, and citing the Bible as your only real source. Maybe you should try, I don't know, showing us the evidence.